right, everybody. I am so thankful you would be here. We're kind of like almost, well, we're going to have bad weather, but we're still going to hit that fall where everyone gets back in the swing of things. I am so thankful you would offer your time here if you're new. We have been waiting for you. This fall, we expect people who have gone away on vacation, who have been away from school, that you come back and you join together with God's people. We are so thankful that you are here. My guess is if you are new to St. Louis or you came back from a summer off, you are here for a purpose, a job or some kind of like schooling, some kind of attaining some kind of degree. And so I came across through a friend this guy named Miroslav Volf. I only say that to make you know that I actually read books. I do try. And Miroslav Volf, this guy, he was at a sport and faith conference. It was up in Michigan. And he said he didn't expect to ask this question, but as he's speaking to all these athletes and coaches and people who are highly successful and trained in their craft, he said this question: why do you want to be better than others? Why do you want to be better than others? I'm going to let that sink in. Let it sink in. Why do you want to be better than others? My guess is there's a time when you were in school and you were like, well, I want to get the grades, right? But if you're in that super competitive, like grad school atmosphere, you know what I mean? Maybe there's like a curve to the grading, right? And you're hoping that you're in the top fourth, and actually if you're grading on a curve, then you really hope everyone else does terribly, right? Because then your grade looks better. But somehow, when it comes to school, you can say, why do you want to be better than others? It happens in your job. You work for promotions. You work hard to be better than others. It happens in all kinds of other areas of life, like sports, of course. There's people who pump their chest with bravado, and they always want to be better than others. So why do you want to be better than others? It's not bad to be good at something. It's really a good thing to be good at something. The issue comes when you try to do something and put others below you, that you try to be better than others. And here's what I'll say. I don't know exactly why you might want to be better than others, but I do know what it will do to you. I don't know why you might want to be better than others, but I do know what it will do to you. This became clear, actually, the friend who gave me this book from Miroslav Volf, he has an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they are thick in what you call like travel sports time. You know, like this with families, you're all making decisions of like, are we a travel sports family or are we not, right? And when you get into this travel sports family, you make friends with all the people that your kids play with. You make friends with their parents. And I was at a barbecue, and he was bringing all the parents from their team together. And all they talked about for maybe the 3 or 4 hours we were together is, what team is your kid going to be on next? Right? Because there's some kind of like, I don't want to say arbitrary, but some levels of kids' sport. Whether it's like AAA or AA or some kind of thing, you want to make sure your kid gets on the right team. And I was there at the party, and I don't have kids to throw into the mix, and so I was just coming up short. I looked like the most awkward guy at the party. It was terrible, but somehow there was this conversation surrounding maybe a question needed to be asked. Why do you want to be better than others? I might not know why you want to be better than others, but I do know what it will do to you. Jesus was teaching, and there was a man who kind of interrupted his teaching, and he actually didn't have a question, he had a command for Jesus. He asked Jesus to do something for him. He said, Jesus, tell my brother to split the inheritance with me. All right, so it's a kind of tough command of Jesus, because really what you hope the man would come forward Jesus with is, Jesus, I have tried to reconcile with my brother. I have tried to solve this issue of an inheritance, but we're at wit's end. Our relationship is broken, and all I want to make sure happens is that I get to keep my brother, that we don't break and have this terrible relationship. So Jesus, tell my brother to split the inheritance with me. But Jesus has a response for him. I want us to read it together. It comes in the next verse. And so let's read this together. This is Jesus' response to that man who said, Jesus, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Let's read this together. But he said to him, man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you? Who made me a judge? Well, clearly, the man asking Jesus to tell his brother to split his inheritance is the one who's trying to make him a judge. But it seems this person who wants the inheritance split is thinking of Jesus as one who can judge, who is a judge. In a Christianese kind of language in the church, we often use language like, I want to be more like Jesus. Or maybe it's like, it's good to become more Christ-like. You've heard this kind of language maybe? All right, we're getting some nods, we're okay. It's like we want to become like Jesus. Well, if you want to be like Jesus, it's a good question to ask, who is he? If you try to make Jesus a judge, if you try to, in your mind, think of Jesus as a judge, is that who you want to become? Do you become the judge of everyone? Do you become the judge of your neighbors? Do you become the judge of your coworkers? Do you become the judge of even God himself and all that is right and wrong? And when you become the judge, what you will do is put others below you and make yourself the better one. So why do you want to be better than others? Jesus offers a warning to this man who asked the inheritance to be divided. He offers a warning to him and says, take care and be on guard against all covetousness. Covetousness, kind of a goofy word. It's wanting something that's not yours. It's trying to attain things that are not meant for you. It's trying to take something from others so that you can have for yourself. Maybe you think of the word greed. Greed, right? Because we know in the schema of greed is always taking from another person so that you can have more than them. The way Jesus is trying to use this is to say there is some kind of insatiable desire. There is an insatiable desire that leaves a pit in your stomach, an emptiness inside of you that says, until I get what I want, until I get everything I need, until I'm better than others, I won't rest. And he says, be on guard against that insatiable desire, that greed, that covetousness. And then Jesus tells a parable. It says, there was a land of a rich man that produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, what shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. All right, so there's a man who owns some land, and the crop is really good, and he has more than he knows what to do with, so he has to figure out a solution with all this extra stuff he has. And he starts to think to himself, and he has a conclusion of what he's going to do, and so we'll read this together. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. That's the answer. When you have extra, you have to find a place to put it. There's an early church father who actually, when he commentates on this parable, he says, well, the storehouse that you're trying to build, it's actually the bellies of those who are hungry. See, because if you have extra, it's meant for other people. It's not meant for you to store up for yourself. So I'm not sure why you might want to be better than others, but I do know what it will do to you. It will make you selfish. If you think of Jesus as a judge, you will become selfish. You will only think of yourself. I'm not sure what the skyline in this city looked like in the ancient world. But you can already imagine, right? When you go to a city, there are corporations and people that like to put their name on the skyscraper, right? There's this notoriety. What they want to do is actually to build some kind of name for themselves. And what you realize when he builds these extra storehouses is it's not at all about stuff. It is about how he sees himself. It's about his self-concept, how he thinks about himself. And so he becomes selfish. He takes a good thing, which is a good crop with lots of extra that can serve many people, and then he makes it all about himself. That guy Miroslav Volf, I think he hits the nail on the head when he talks about being better than others. He gives the example of, it's hard to get into some of these prestigious universities and schools. I'm around med students all the time, and they all got 34s and 36s on their ACTs, and it blows my mind. The problem is that when you show up to med school, everyone has a 34 on the ACT. Do you know what I mean? Everyone is highly accomplished. Everyone is the best in their high school class. And then you get to your college, and then all of a sudden there's a great leveling, but the leveling is way up here because everyone's very competent and skilled. And then even when you're at the top, there's this game of jockeying to get above one another. There's this game of becoming better than others. And if your desire is to become the best, you should think about what is your metric? What's the measurement by which you want to become better than others? And if you can't come up with a metric in your own mind, what will happen is someone else will give you that measurement. Someone else will give you that metric, and you'll be on the treadmill, and you'll never be enough, and you'll try, and you'll get the grades one day, but the grades are going to plummet the next, and you'll wonder, am I ever good enough? Jesus, when he talks about taking care of you, he talks about the anxiety of life, the anxiety of this way of living. And he says, could you just take a moment and look at the birds of the air? Do they not have enough? Or he says, look at the lilies. Do they not have everything they need? No, somehow someone has given you a measurement that you could never measure up to. Whether it was your own monologue in your own mind or it was the voice of someone else, there's something that has been handed to you that says you are never enough and you'll never be good enough. When what Jesus wants to do is not to judge you, but to simply give you everything he has. Because do you not have what you need? Do you not have what you need because God has given you all things? No, and so what Jesus does is he says, I'm not going to be judge, I'm going to be the one who gives. I'm going to be the justifier, the one who makes you enough, not because you did enough, but I'm going to take all the judgment on myself. That's the story of the cross. Not that it was just the judgment of a Roman Empire, but it was your judgment and my judgment, the judgment we give to ourselves and to one another. And Jesus doesn't just do away with the judgment, he puts it on himself, and he is judged so that you would not be. And then all of a sudden you realize the game isn't about being better than one another. It's simply about doing good for others. The man says he's going to build some storehouses for this extra crop, but we also get an insight into the mind of the man. The man actually gives us a little bit of a peek into his brain. So here's what he writes next in the next verse. And let's read this together. This is what the man says in an inner monologue. We'll read together. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up. See, I don't know why you might want to be better than others, but I do know what it will do to you. And it will leave you an isolated, alone, and sad person. I bring this up because that phrase, I will say to my soul, was a moment where the people who were listening to the parable probably chuckled to themselves. Imagine this, a man who has all these goods, a great net worth, a great crop, and all he can do is go and sit in an office by himself and decide what to do. It wasn't about bringing his team together. It wasn't about thanking those who harvested the crop. It wasn't about other people. It was only about himself. And if you see Jesus as a judge, you will be isolated and alone. And that is not what Jesus wants for you. I've heard it said that it's lonely at the top, right? Like once you get to the top of your industry, if you're a business leader, a CEO, some kind of leader who's above others, they say it's lonely at the top, but in my mind, it's only lonely if you stepped on other people's heads to get there. It's only lonely at the top if you burned every relationship you have on the way up. It's only lonely if you treat other people as simply obstacles or stepping stones to get where you want to be. Why do you want to be better than others? This last Friday, we had a mini lock-in kind of situation with our youth group. If you grew up in church culture, you hear lock-in, and it's like this thing where you like get a bunch of youth together, and from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. you have this massive youth night, and it's like just terrible. It's a terrible time for everybody. Everyone's cranky, and people fight, and people do weird things because they're in a big church building alone, locked in. So what we do is we do like a 5-hour lock-in, just like 7 to midnight. We can do that. And something that is so exciting about our youth group right now is that we have so many African youth joining us. All these immigrants and refugees here in our city are joining together in South County with our youth group. And I am just loving the way I am watching their hearts. I'm watching the way they love Jesus and love one another. And boy, are they hard to wrangle. Boy, are they hard to keep control. But it is too much fun. As a part of this night, we played this game called Sardines. And once again, some of you are like, oh goodness, that game. But the whole premise is this. So here's what you do. You take one person to go hide somewhere in the church, and then everybody else tries to find the one person hiding. Now, when you find the one person hiding, you hide with them. So you get this like mass of like 30, 40 kids all hiding in one closet, packed together like sardines, right? So that's the game. Well, I got to be the one who hid first. I found a closet full of dead crickets and hid behind a table. And a couple people found me, but then there was one gentleman, and he's from our African youth ministry, and he finds me, and he says, Pastor Nathan, I found you. And I go, yeah, come and hide with me so other people can find us. And he goes, no, I have to go get all my friends. And I don't know how many times, 3-4 times we played this game over, I tried to explain the rules to him that you hide once you find the person, but each time he said, I have to go find my friends. Because what use is there in winning if you're gonna do it alone? Right? Isn't there something revealing about his heart if he's unwilling to say, I won, I'm going to hide alone now? No, your Jesus doesn't want you isolated. He doesn't want you far from him. No, he wants you near to him. He doesn't want you speaking to yourself, wondering what to do with all the stuff you have. No, everything you have is for others. Because it's not bad to be good at something, but I want you to be really good at something, not for yourself, but for the sake of others. I want you to not give up on med school, not for yourself, but because we need doctors like you. I want people who go to school, I want you to study hard, not to get the good grades to prove something about yourself. I want you to get the good grades because God needs you. He needs to use you to love and care for others. No, that's why you need to be better. Not to be better than others, but better for others. Jesus often takes what we think about him and he turns it on its head. He takes something familiar to us and he changes how we think about it. He has to teach us about these things. And if you want to be better than others, maybe it means you want to be great. And Jesus has a different definition of what it means to be great. He spoke to some religious leaders and explained exactly what it meant to be great. I have a verse for us, and I'll read it for us. You just listen. Just listen along and let this sink in, what it means to be great according to Jesus. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And the way Jesus works to become great means you'll lose, you'll sacrifice, you'll give for the sake of others. To be great won't be to be better than others. To be great will be to live for others. And this is what Jesus wants for you. Not that you become the judge and have to prop yourself up over other people, but that you would live for and in service to others the way Jesus has for you. I've been saying that it's kind of a problem if you think of Jesus as a judge. That can cause some kind of difficult conclusions you might make about who Jesus is. But there is a day when Jesus will be a judge. Jesus is a judge, and he will be a judge. And when you go into a courtroom, there's often the result, right? You are either declared innocent or guilty. You're acquitted or you suffer the punishment. That's how judges seem to work. But Jesus turns how we think about him on its head. He does things backwards. I have a friend who about 3 months ago was able to adopt a baby boy, and it has been such a joy to watch them be parents. Such an absolute joy. And as I was talking with them and reflecting all that they've gone through the last 3 months and what joy has been brought them, all the hardship, they shared with me that on August 27th, they have a court date. They have a court date where they're going to stand with their baby boy before a judge. And that judge is not going to decide if they are innocent or guilty. He's going to tell them that they are family. He's not going to bring down a verdict of innocent or guilty. A judge will tell them they are family. And that's what Jesus does for you. He says, you belong to me. I'll do anything to have you for myself. And actually, if you think of Jesus as a judge who declares you family, you go back to the beginning of the parable, and a son said, would you tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me? And Jesus said, the inheritance means nothing. Your life could be required of you at any moment. What good is your wealth? What good is your stuff? And instead, he just wants them to be a part of a family, his family, the one where they belong. No, Jesus, he'll be a judge. He won't say innocent or guilty. He'll call you family. Not that you would worry about being better than others, that you would simply belong to him. So let's pray. Father, so often we have tried to make ourselves better than one another. We don't even know why we do it. It's hard to even name. But Father, if we were to play that game, we know that we've been selfish. We know that we feel alone. And so Father, first help us to belong to you. Call us your family, and then reconcile us to one another. Make us your people that we would love our neighbors as ourselves. In your name we pray. Amen.